when a young person is looking at what they want to do, decide what is going to benefit them. Education can never be taken away. So I think education in some form is always valuable. Figure out what drives your passion, but it's also maybe sometimes you have to put food on the table first. So balance those things out. Understand that it's not always a quick drive to get
Right.
to where I want to be. Have a plan, because if you don't have something to work
Yeah.
towards, then you're going to get stagnant.
Welcome to the Job Dictionary podcast. Today, I will be interviewing Shirley Morris to talk about what it's like to work as a travel agent. Uh, Shirley is the owner of Fairy Godmother Travel. First off, Shirley, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here and to share my industry with you.
Absolutely. And Shirley, three questions that we love to start off with is, in your own words, what do you do? Where do you live? And as a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up?
Wow, what do I do? I'm a travel agent, but I'm also a travel agency owner. So I have a very dichotomous life in my work. Some days I am working direct with clients to help them curate the best trip possible. And some days in my job, I am actually managing a team of 60 travel agents and helping them um, work better in their field with whatever support I need to offer. I grew up in Chesapeake, Virginia, which was very close to Virginia Beach. I had the opportunity to travel a lot growing up, so that kind of fueled my passion. When I was little, I wanted to be a doctor like so many people. And I did actually go to graduate school and start working and I became a school psychologist. But my passion was always in travel. So that kind of led me to this point in my life.
And how long have you been working in the field?
I have been working in the travel agency business for 15 years now.
And tell me more about how you first got your career start in travel, right? Like, how did you first get into it? When did you make that career switch? And what were your like thought processes making that change?
So, obviously, going from a school psychologist to a travel agent is a bit of a switch. Growing up, my father was passionate about traveling everywhere, and so that kind of gave me that travel bug. Early on in my married life, I was able to move to Europe. Live there for a short bit. Then we came back to the States. Then we went back over to Scotland. We've lived in several states. So I learned how to navigate moving about both individually and with a family. So then when I moved to Houston, I actually encountered a gentleman working in the travel industry field. And he was like, "You really need to become a travel agent." And I thought, why not? Okay, because
Yeah.
it's something that I knew with our continual travel and potential continued travel that it would go with me. Now, funny enough, I've been in Houston for 15 years, but in that time, that's really how I developed the idea to hone my passion for travel, and it's a great outlet here to go around the world. So that's how I did it.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And you followed your passion. You tapped into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And Shirley, if do you believe that there are degrees or certifications that are truly required to be a travel agent?
I absolutely do believe that travel agents need to have training. There are many paths to becoming a really good travel agent. ASTA, which is our national organization that basically works as kind of our field office in DC, protecting travel agent rights and protecting us with laws. It's the American Society for Travel Agents. So basically, they have a verified travel agent certification. That's a great place to start for anyone, no matter what they want to do. Then, for training as a travel agent, when you are looking at specific types of travel, niche travel, it's very important to get those certifications. So, for example, I hold what's called an accredited cruise counselor. It was a 3-year program to become a specialist in working with people on both river, expedition, and ocean voyages. There are also some other specific trainings that individual travel suppliers such as Disney has the Disney College of Knowledge. That's a real fun one. Universal Partner Community has one for their products. Basically, every type of travel supplier is going to offer some degree of training, but there are these bigger programs that both uh, CLIA, which is how I'm an accredited cruise counselor, and ASTA offer that are just more broad-based trainings. And then when agents come to work with us, we actually have a 6-month training program in-house that they do, even if they have these certifications, to make sure that we're providing a quality service to clients. So yes, I do think that is absolutely essential for any good travel agent to have some training under the belt.
Gotcha. And Shirley, tell me, are there any other jobs that the position is also known for? You mentioned travel supplier, but I just want to get if there is a distinction between travel agent and
Sure,
supplier.
absolutely. So travel suppliers are the partners we work with, such as Disney or
Hmm.
Universal or Marriott. So those are the companies that we work with that are going to be providing the locations we want to have our clients travel to. Even the airlines, we partner with them. So one of the terms we use is called travel supplier or travel partner. As a travel agent or a travel advisor, which is what you'll often hear for our role,
Mm-hmm.
um, those are the people who are on the ground creating these itineraries where we're researching safety in areas, we're researching quality of particular travel supplier offerings and hotels. So yeah, those two terms are sometimes interchangeable. I think it's really, it differentiates from a booking agent who is just going to book travel. Say if you work
Gotcha.
with somebody like Expedia just to book direct online, then you may get a booking agent. All they're going to do is book travel. We as advisors go a little step further, and we're going to be with our clients both before, during, and after travel. So helping them navigate all of the options and then becoming aware of, what's the best way to accomplish their travel dreams, and then if anything should go wrong, we're there to support them.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. And tell me a little bit more about that, Shirley. Tell me about like what does the day in the life look like for a travel agent, right? What time do you start? What time do you end? Are you in meetings most of the times with clients or with other travel agents? And is it remote, hybrid, or does it kind of depend on the company?
Being a travel agent has a lot of different possibilities for the individual. So all of my team works remotely. However, we do get together for conferences probably 3 or 4 times minimum a year so that we are meeting in person.
Yeah.
As a remote worker, I do have the option to meet with my local clients. I can also use Zoom for my clients who are around the country. I have clients literally in almost every state at this point. And so sometimes we just talked on the phone or it's all been online. It really is up to what our clients want from us as far as their travel advisor. And how much in depth they want. But there are other agencies that operate still in what's called a storefront option. So you've still got those other models like AAA or some other small
Yeah.
local travel agencies that still operate from a storefront. And that is certainly another model. That kind of gets into a different question of travel agents of how they're paid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And tell
if
me
you'd
more
like,
about
I
that,
can.
please.
Okay. So one of the ways that differentiates travel agents in storefronts, oftentimes, not all, but many of them are working as a waged employee or perhaps even a salary. That's up to how their offices are set up. Um, Many travel agents at this point are independent contractors. So that's how my team operates because I don't have a storefront. So
Hmm.
basically, all of the independent contractor travel advisors or travel agents that work with me, they're utilizing our branding and my certification. There are a lot of certifications. I am a corporation in 3 states that I have to be. And so those are all things that I'm offering to those independent contractors. But they, by law, get to choose when they want to work, how they want to market themselves, um, how many hours a week they want to spend doing it. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to give them a 1099, which is what the IRS requires for
Right.
showing what they've earned in commission. And at that point, they are responsible for paying the taxes that are owed on that. But really, it's an individualized structure. So I do, with my company, I have agents who may want to work 3 hours a week. And then I have some who choose to work as many hours as they want to a week to accomplish the amount of travel planning that they desire to create with their clients.
Gotcha. And as a travel agent, what specific task do you spend majority of your day doing? Are you typically engaging with clients? Are you looking for clients? Or are you kind of engaging and looking for deals or bookings?
My day is an interesting day because as the owner and working with 60 agents, my day is really scheduled. I start off my days usually about 2 hours helping my existing clients, making sure I'm doing things to answer their questions if
Hmm.
they're gearing up for travel. Sometimes we're doing things like making dining plans, making car rentals, checking
Yeah.
flights to make sure they haven't deviated exceptionally. But then I spend probably 2 hours a day keeping up with current affairs in the travel world. So that's going to be what companies might be experiencing issues so that I'm making sure I'm not sending clients to those companies, making sure that we know what the world climate is like as far
Mm,
as
right.
both physical and emotional. So, what's going on in the world, where there are
Yeah.
hot spots for safety. Um, Sometimes we have to pivot and offer our clients the option to change their trips depending on, if I see a big hurricane is set to hit a certain area, then we're going to try to reschedule. Same thing with snowstorms and weather, so there are both weather events and then world political events that may impact
Right.
travel. So I'm trying to keep day to day up to date on those. That's another couple of hours. I spend at least 3 to 4 hours a day helping my team out, supporting them
Hmm.
with their individual client issues they may be experiencing or needing support. And then I probably spend an hour or two a day educating myself on a travel destination or product that I may not be as familiar with because my goal is to be the most knowledgeable about something. If my client comes to me and wants to, book a river cruise on XYZ river cruise, then I need to know
Yeah.
about it. I need to know what their pros and cons are. So, and which one to offer to them. So really it's part is what it's, when we're looking at helping our clients, we're also qualifying them. That's a term you hear used by travel agents. We're
Hmm.
making sure we're meeting our clients where their budget is, where their goals are for their trip, and not where our budget or our goals. We want to make sure we're doing something right for our clients.
Awesome. Initially, that's a ton of detail oriented, provinces that you guys do. That's super awesome. And what technologies or tools do you use as part of that job, right? To look at all these things. I'm sure like maybe some search engines, but what are some of the I guess softwares that a travel agent would engage with on a
Yeah,
day-to-day basis?
absolutely. Travel agents do use a lot of software now. Those of us who have moved into, now approaching, I guess, the second quarter of the 20th century or 21st century. Um, so on a daily basis, the some of the software that I use, one is called a CRM, customer reservation management system. So there are
Hmm.
many CRMs out there. A lot of people know about like Workforce, and there are specific ones that they or Salesforce, excuse me, that they use. We use one that's specific to travel agents. There are probably about 10 well-known CRMs out there. The one we're using is just one of those. So that is used to maintain um, secure data for our customers, so they can input their payment information and it's encrypted. So we're able to store that and utilize that along as payments come along that are due. We also use it to keep up with our clients to make sure that when we have other things we want to email them or send them, we can use that to create email base. So that's kind of one of the key things that we utilize. All of our travel suppliers, just about at this point, have booking tools that are unique. One of the biggest booking tools out there is one that the cruise lines, a lot of them use, and it's basically a cruise booking engine that several of our different suppliers use, like in the ocean voyages. So, for example, Norwegian Cruise Line and Princess and Cunard, they all use a very similar type of software. There are things that some travel agents use that we do not use in our company, but one of those is called a GDS, a General Distribution System. That is a place where many hoteliers as well as airlines will put their available product into that system, and then it can be booked that way. We tend to use more developed applications of a GDS so that we don't have to get into that nitty gritty. We're using more real time availability software that's showing us, okay, I'm booking this now. I don't have to verify with the supplier that it's really there because the supplier is telling the
Right.
system I'm using that it's really there.
Gotcha.
And so those are kind of the big things. I mean, of course, as an owner, I use I have a bookkeeper and an accountant, but I also on a daily basis use QuickBooks for, as a small business owner to manage my things. I use Excel spreadsheets constantly, um, to manage a variety of things. So, yeah, there are a lot of things that, and even the individual travel agents will use those tools as well in many ways to support their clients.
Gotcha. And Shirley, tell me a little bit more about what parts of your job do you find more exciting and interesting, and maybe which ones are harder, emotionally challenging, or just boring for you?
Okay. Goodness, I love this job. I don't know that there's anything that I find really boring about my job. There are parts that I do enjoy more. One
Yeah.
of those, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't include the fact that I get to travel to destinations to learn more about them.
Yeah.
Even last week, I was in Mexico on a work trip, and it sounds glamorous. And in some ways, it's absolutely incredible and mind-boggling that I get to do this. But I mean, I am
Yeah.
touring, I'm traveling to Mexico to tour 10 different hotels so that I know the different room types that these hotels have, and I'm doing lots of, notes and taking photos. Um, but I do enjoy that. Even though
Yeah.
it's work and it's hard, and man, my step count is crazy.
That's
But
great.
I do like that. As far as, I love supporting my team. I love planning for my clients. I love doing really off the wall trips or very involved trips. So
Yeah.
recently, I've had somebody ask me about a trip to Ghana. I've had somebody else that I've planned a multi country trip in Europe. I have someone who did a very specific faith based trip through France for Passover. It's like there are lots of, I
Yeah.
love those kind of challenging tours that are just, these amazing once in a lifetime adventures that I know that people are using a lot of money to do. Last year I had to go on a safari. It was really tough, but somebody's got to do it. And
Yeah.
I love my job when I get to do things like that because there was a lot of fun in that. But I did also tour and video 14 resorts while I was in Tanzania. So, those are the
Wow.
things that are the most exciting. The most I guess the most unexciting is probably reconciling commissions checks that I get from, 100 different suppliers. But the nice part, the kind of the silver lining about that is that I'm
Mhm.
seeing a reward to my team.
Right.
I'm seeing that, all of these men and women who have entrusted themselves to our agency are now able to provide more income for their families. And so as I'm doing that very mundane task with my office manager of going through payroll every 2 weeks, we we appreciate that our agency is growing. We can see that things are growing, and I mean, but most importantly, I appreciate that that's providing income for families. And so, there's still it's still a silver lining. There's not really a bad part of my job.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that for you. And are you able to leave most of the work at home? And obviously you work from home, but what it means is like, do you usually work into the evenings, or you said travel agents kind of set their own schedule as well? What does that look like for most people?
For most people, I would say, I have some people who work jobs full time during the day as teachers, nurses, business owners in another field. I have some university connected individuals. So, there are a lot of people that do this as a second source of income, and that's totally up to them. And then I do have others that do treat it as their daily, full-time job. For me, it's a full-time job. I work most days. I start around 7:30 in the morning, and I generally stop around 5, and then I may do a couple more hours in the evening. I mean, there are times where it's going to be busier than others. When I'm working to plan trips in Europe, my hours may be a little crazier because I work with a lot of destination management companies within those countries. So I'm actually, my clients want somebody who's local. So I'm reaching out to people in those countries. And so
Mm,
sometimes their days are a little different in time schedule than ours. So I'm trying to work around those. I mean, I have suppliers that open up at 3 a.m. And if I need to call, then I'm going to do that. It doesn't happen all the time, but it is a possibility. I would say for the average agent who probably works as an IC, as an independent contractor, their hours are going to range anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, I do have one agent who sells close to $1 million a year, and I mean, her hours are probably 8 hours a day, and she has a full-time job, so she's Wonder Woman. But yeah,
wow,
there
that's super awesome.
there are those people, and I mean, there are people who do that for sure.
Gotcha. And you kind of mentioned a little bit too, Shirley. Are there any busy seasons generally to this job? I'm sure, like before summer and in the winter, but obviously you're planning these trips ahead of these times, right? So
Yes.
for a travel agent, what does that really look like?
So it's interesting. I said we have times just like accountants have seasons of busyness.
Yeah,
Travel agents do have seasons of busyness, and we actually have a name for our season. It's called wave season, and wave season, and it's like a season of travel planning time, which typically happens from after Thanksgiving all the way through the end of March. That is
yeah,
really the one of the biggest booking periods for the travel industry. Now, of course, that seems to be expanding a little bit. We've noticed, particularly since the pandemic, I've seen that more people are trying to take those times to spend time with family. And so, really, the travel season, there's no down season for travel now, really, as far as
mhm,
like when people actually go to travel. There are times when people think about planning those, more still, which does tend to be that Thanksgiving to March timeframe. And then we'll see it kind of slow down as far as people planning new travel in the summer. But as you mentioned, that's a very busy travel season for our clients. So it's a good thing we're not maybe booking as many active trips because then we're trying to take care of our clients
right.
during travel. So it works out very well that way. We'll see as soon as school starts in the fall, we'll see an uptick for about a month of
Yeah,
people. Now they've got a little time on their hands and they want to start planning their winter trips or their early spring break trips. That's kind of another season that we see of busyness.
hmm,
Um, we have some suppliers who also have a model of sending out special savings offers, and they have quite a following. For example, Disney does this. So they will do occasional savings offers, and those can happen probably 4 times a year for their various product lines, meaning cruise, Disneyland, Disney
yeah,
World. And when they announce those offers, I can assure you we have very busy long days as well. But those only come, like I said, about 4 times a year for each of those products. And that's kind of unique to them. Our cruise lines do a similar thing where they'll offer up a new season of cruise. Some of them now are through summer of 2026. When those new seasons come up again, we'll have a little bit of an uptick. So it's really just about knowing and preparing for those time periods when our busy time periods are, and knowing that just like for some other professions, they're going to be busier and slower seasons, and trying to prepare through those seasons so that we're doing a good job for our clients.
gotcha. And those are wonderful insights. And I think, this is one of the best sections I think we get to ask is let's go into the misconceptions, right, about being a travel agent. What do you think people
Okay.
underestimate about this profession?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I think people underestimate. I've recently had some people ask some really great but tough questions about why is it necessary to use a travel agent when there are so many tools online. And I think those are very valid questions. And I believe that any good travel agent should have an answer for that. I get, why can't I just book through whatever booking
Right.
tool they want to use online? And my answer is very honest. I'm like, yes, you can do that. We can find the same or better pricing often. We also are going to provide one point of contact. We're not just a random email or booking tool online where there's not a person of support. I tend to work with most of those online booking tool companies, but I have a point of contact on the inside too. So when things go wrong, we're there to help our clients. I like to tell people I'm not necessarily always going to be the cheapest option, but I value my time, and I think other people should value our time as well. If you go to a doctor or you go to any other type of specialist, you don't expect
Mhm.
them to work for you for free. So we oftentimes get paid commissions. Some agencies do charge planning fees. Um, Not everyone does. Even within my own agency, there are some of my agents who charge planning fees. It really depends on the state they're in and if the state allows it that they're in.
Gotcha.
Um, but most states do allow it, and so it's one of those things where I think that a client has to decide: do they want the cheapest possible trip, or do they want the best price trip that's going to be successful and have a backbone when and if anything should be challenging about their trip,
Yeah.
or even if they want to do more in-depth things. I mean, I like to say, as travel agents, we're not just booking vacations, we're curating memories.
Yeah. I love that. And in the contrary, do you think that there's something that people might overestimate about this profession? Maybe like an overhyped positive assumption. Obviously, you get to travel, and that's super cool. You said it yourself. Or maybe an overhyped negative assumption, right? About how people might think that it's harder than it actually is.
Yeah. So I think actually what we tend to get is, I think people think it's easier than it actually is.
Yeah.
I really try to, when I get interest on our website for, I want to be with your agency, I really have to question them hard. And it's interesting, even once I go through that process of sharing with people, I would say, and getting down to just those that I think have a really good resume, they're still, after they talk to us, they may not choose to join us, because I think I make it sound as tough as I think it is. It's a great rewarding job, but it's not going to be an overnight income source. And I think so that's one of those things that people think it's just real easy to get out there. Well, again, it may be real easy to become a travel agent online or something. There are many different ways to do that. But I think that the thing that separates the good and the bad is that we do require the training, and there's a lot of training and a lot of time. And I like to say it takes about 3 years to really gain, as an independent contractor, a good book of clients. So you've got to have
Mm.
repeat clients. Um, some of the, so again, this is just our model. The
Yeah.
model where it's an employee in a storefront, many of them are paid hourly. They don't receive part of the commission they earn. And they're just being fed, clients walking in the door. But the it's a different model
Yeah.
of how we pay out. So I share commissions with my team, and it's a very generous policy. Again, that's one of those subjects I'm not going to give numbers, because there are lots of different numbers
Hmm.
out there that
Right.
people use. We are probably one of the more favorable ones with the amount of training we provide. But there are lots of different models and
Yeah.
options, and I don't want to say there's only one right way, because there's not. I mean, certain things work better for different individuals.
Gotcha. And Shirley, tell me, what is the fastest way for somebody to get into the profession, right? Especially if it's somebody who comes from a non-traditional background and I just want to get my foot in the door. I just want to be a travel agent.
So I would say, one of the good things to do is to go to asta.org, which is the national board of, the American Society for Travel Advisors. They have that VTA, the Verified Travel Agent. They also have, though, a program for new travel agents. So anybody can go there and explore some introductory courses on what it's like to become a travel agent. What does that look like? What does it entail? For us, I mean, I like to say we also offer a good way for people, and many travel agencies do. We have, like, on our website, an About Us section where people can go and explore. Okay, what critical skills are they looking for? We're looking for skills like Excel. We're looking for use of Microsoft Word. We're looking for those basic tools, and
Mhm.
we're also looking for a body of travel experience. I think the best travel advisor is going to be someone who has been able to travel, but it's not always required. I mean, we have different things that we look at. Sales background is sometimes helpful, even if they haven't had travel background when they're looking to become a travel advisor. Good customer service skills,
Yeah.
being able to speak in complete sentences is very important for this job. You'd be amazed at how often, and this isn't just me, this is when talking with hundreds of other travel agency owners. We have these questionnaires and people will send back things with one word answers instead of answering in complete sentences. Part of what I know I'm looking for, as well as other people, is an individual's ability to represent themselves on not paper, but in writing, because much of our job does involve communicating with clients through
Yeah.
email, text messages, what have you. And it's very important to be a good communicator when you're a travel agent.
Gotcha. And what other fields are people coming from before going into being a travel agent? Is it random or have you seen themes?
I have definitely seen themes when it comes to people wanting to get into the travel industry, especially those wanting that kind of second source income. So I personally have multiple teachers, either active and or retired.
Hmm.
I have multiple nurses. These are people that deal with challenging situations on a daily basis. They think on their feet. They know how to get through tough situations, and they do very well at that.
Hmm.
Likewise, though, I've had recently a lot of younger post college students that are starting out in the world, and they've had some travel experience with their families, and they're looking to market themselves in this adventure. People who have great social media skills are really good sometimes at being a travel agent if they can communicate beyond just a few words here and there. I mean, I have several bloggers. I have several
Yeah.
who are good with TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Every generation reached in our agency because of those skill sets.
Gotcha. And you kind of mentioned it just now too, but what does somebody have to be good at and like doing to be good at being a travel agent, right? Like what kind of has to come easily to you?
Okay. So to be good at being a travel agent, I think the first and foremost for most people, not always, I do have some exceptions to the rule, they have to be somewhat extroverted or willing to talk to people. Uh, the sales skills have to be there.
Yeah.
People have to be willing to hear no and not cry over it. I mean, I know that's one thing I always tell people when they come to me. They're like, "I love to travel." I go, "But do you love when people have you work and then they don't end up booking through you?" Because it does happen. I mean, you walk into a store to purchase something, you may not purchase it there. You're gonna walk out, and that's okay. Same thing in our industry. People have to have a strong backbone, good research skills. I mean, we utilize the internet all the time,
Right.
and we have a lot of tools that aren't available to the general public, but we still need to navigate them quickly and think quickly. Numbers, I really, we're dealing with people's money on a daily basis when we're planning their trips, and to me it's very important that my people understand how much care we need to take when we're dealing with people's
Right.
saved income. So I want them to be able to figure out number issues quickly, however that looks. I mean, they don't have
Mhm.
to be able to add and subtract on their own, but they need to be able to understand the value of things and how we can maximize that for our clients.
Gotcha. And you kind of mentioned a little bit. Obviously, the structures to travel agents look more like commission based, right? For the in terms of like agencies, you mentioned there's some like store facing ones. Is there typical promotion path likes for travel agents, or do you not really see that in the industry?
So there are promotional paths, and there are several different ways that that happens. Within our agency, and I'll speak to that first. We do offer tiers of commission, and many agencies structure this way. So, depending on a person's longevity, their contributions to the agency,
Mm,
their sales amounts, those all have an impact on the amount of commission split that they're getting. Within So I do have senior advisors and I have new advisors and then I have trainers. And so they all have different levels of experience and commission split based on what they're doing. Um, Another interesting thing that happens is, we talked earlier about the travel supplier side
mhm.
of things. Sometimes travel agents may go to a job where they're working for one of our travel suppliers. Well, oftentimes I know even like on Indeed or on LinkedIn, I'll see, they'll email and say, "Hey, we've got this opening for a business development manager for XYZ cruise line or XYZ hotel line," and they will hire even with from other travel agents. So there are those kinds of paths. For me personally, my goal was to always be a business owner. And I know when you asked me earlier when I want to be when I grow up, I knew I didn't necessarily want to work for somebody else. And I mean, I even kind of started that with the school psychology route, trying to work towards hanging my own shingle on a building, and doing
Right.
that. But I ended up coming over here to the travel world and being able to buy the agency and manage that um, was something that I kind of had a vision for. So,
Mhm.
I think it's again, people have to have a vision for growth, and growth can take place in many ways. Sometimes growth just takes place in becoming a specific type of travel agent. For example, my specialty is luxury travel. So there are even
Yeah.
within our industry, there are subsets or subgroups where we can apply to be part of. So I'm part of something that's called the Luxury Leaders Alliance. There are only about 300 of us within the Luxury Leaders Alliance,
Hmm.
within our consortium of about 6,000 agents. So, there are even opportunities for promotion that way, depending on, what you consider promotion. But certainly, there are several paths that people can take. And then, of course, for those storefronts, they're going to have frontline managers, just like I have managers that work for me. Those
Yeah.
storefronts, they're going to have people who've been in the industry longer and take that lead role.
Gotcha. And Shirley, what would you say is the average salary for a travel agent? And you can provide a range as well, whether it's through experience or just number of customers.
Right. So, and this is part of that when you were, and I didn't answer this earlier when people think of it being glamorous. I mean, really, it depends, especially with the independent contractor, because it is commission based from that sense. I mean, I have a few that are in my pool that are going to have probably maybe 5,000 in commission a year because they're working some other job, and this is just a
Hmm.
smaller portion of their workforce. I have other agents who are making over 100,000. Um, based on and again, they're probably working full time as an agent, regardless of what else they're doing. There are people out there who double and triple that figure. It really, especially if they're in specific fields like the luxury market, um, very specific niche markets. So it's a hard question to answer, but I would say whatever the heart's desire of an individual, they can probably accomplish that as a travel agent. I know one gentleman who in the pandemic went from, I mean, he's a very young guy, decided to become a specialist in car races. And so he went for the luxury market with people going to Formula One around the
One.
world. And I mean, he is doing millions. So, there are definitely different ways to do it depending on how creative an individual can be. It's really not a locked in salary range for sure.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And we kind of mentioned before what jobs people are coming from, right? Have you seen any that people move on to? Like, what kind of work do they go into after being a travel agent? Are there themes as well, or do people just springboard into anything?
I mean, I think that after being a travel agent, probably most people that are going to leave the travel agency world, specifically for a job that feeds from that, is going to be one of those business development managers for one of our travel supplier
Yeah.
partners. Um, as far as, it's not a field for everybody. I do have people who leave it and then just, they go on to do their life in whatever other field they feel is going to suit them better. I mean, it's not for everyone. But I would say that the people who leave it are probably with a specific intent are going to go to a travel supplier, maybe because they want more, well, what they think might be more regular hours. I think their hours are just as varied as ours are. Um, but just that idea of working for a company, having benefits, having
Yeah.
more structure. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And Shirley, what books, resources, programs, or certifications that are specific would you recommend to somebody who was getting into being a travel agent? And are there
Okay.
any that you would not recommend that are pretty popular?
It's interesting. The travel industry has changed so much. There aren't many schools anymore that are out there for travel. However, there are still some universities that are offering hotel management, those type of
Yeah,
roles. So those are very valid roles, but I would say those tend to go more to the travel supplier side of things.
right.
As far as the travel agent side of things, really at this point, there's the Travel Institute, which is a big provider of education, and they have uh, three different certifications for travel industry people. So they have one for travel industry executives, which is what I'm considered. They have one for the travel advisor. And then, as I previously mentioned, asta.org also has that introductory coursework for new travel agents. Oftentimes when agents come to us, we have a lot of proprietary training, both in-house,
Hmm.
but also once an agent is signed up, and this is for any travel agency, they're going to be able to take that travel supplier specific training or training that's specific for new agents that may be available only when they're working for a travel agency.
This is our last question officially that we do have to ask you. And I think it's one of my favorite ones as well. And it is, what would you tell your younger self when you were at the beginning of your career?
Wow. My younger self. I mean, I've had such a great life. You know, it's funny. I get asked the question now: is college necessary? And it, for me, it was. It was part of my path, and I really liked it. I do actually have a few agents who did not have that in their career path, and it has not slowed them down one bit. So I think this is something, and this goes back to my school psychologist days of when a young person is looking at what they want to do, decide what is going to benefit them. I mean, education can never be taken away. So I think education in some form is always valuable. And I would definitely say that I utilize my psychology degree every day still. So I
Yeah.
don't regret that at all. Um, I mean, I've really followed a path from the time I was younger because I've been fortunate enough to do that where I got to travel. I mean, I was 25 when I moved to Belgium. So, I guess I've kind of had a nice ability to do that, but not everybody does. So I think that the thing is to figure out what drives your passion, but it's also maybe sometimes you have to put food on the table first. So balance those things out. Understand that it's not always a quick drive to get
Right.
to where I want to be. I'm where I want to be now, but I'm where I want to be now. I'm not where I want to be in 10 years from now because I have a business plan. I have a plan of growth. And I think that that is another thing that I recommend to anyone who is young and trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Make sure you have a plan of growth, whatever that plan is. If it means in 5 years, I want to do this. It could be traveling to Europe. In 5 years, I want to have, this much income. Whatever that is, have a plan. Because if you don't have something to work
Yeah.
towards, then you're going to get stagnant. And I think that's really important to not get stagnant, even for old birds like me.
No, that is absolutely amazing advice. I really appreciate it, Shirley. And where can people follow along with Fairy Godmother or with you to follow along with your work?
Absolutely. We have several means of doing that. We do have an Instagram, Fairy Godmother Travel. We have a Facebook page. Guess what? It's also called Fairy Godmother Travel.
Hmm.
And then our website. I'm really proud of our website. We have a blogger who keeps up with kind of some current places that people can go in the world, and that's always on both our well, it's actually across all of our social media, but also on our website. There's a link to our blogs, and it's www.fairygodmothertravel.com. And of course, also, as I mentioned on there, if anyone's interested in looking at what it takes to become a fairy godmother travel agent, we do have an About Us section where you can meet our different agents, but also see what it is that we're looking for in our team.
Gotcha. Shirley, thank you so much. This is one of my favorite segments that I've had the pleasure of doing. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and it was a very insightful segment for sure.
Well, thank you, Yakin. I really appreciate it. It was super fun to talk about my job. I mean, I know you can tell I really do love my job,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine doing anything else with my life right now. So I'm pretty excited about it. Thank you for the opportunity to share with others who may want to go into this field, and best of wishes to all of them.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!